Welcome to the DevReady podcast. Joining me on the DevReady podcast today, I have Gareth Ryden from Friday again. So time for another monthly AI discussion, roundup chat, whatever this ends up being called, I'm not sure, but it's just the AI chat and discussing what's happened. Welcome, Gareth.
Morning, Anthony, and happy Friday. Best day of the
Friday
week.
to you. It is for you guys.
Yes.
What's something that stood out since the last time we chatted? There's probably been so much news and things that are happening, or what's on your mind today? Probably start there, it'd be easier.
Well, perfect timing. I've had one of those, another discovering fire moment this week for myself. And it was with the Claude Gmail and Google Calendar integration.
Yep.
And so simple, and it's just been helpful beyond belief this week. Okay. And I know I'm in Claude a bit. I'm probably in ChatGPT more. Gemini sits somewhere in the middle, but I just switched on the Gmail and calendar integration, and it's not quite there yet where you can read and write, or you can get it to write emails in your inbox and send them out. But what it can do is just awesome. So even this week, because I haven't switched on the Drive, Google Drive, because we have client content and certain agreements with our clients, so we don't switch it on there. But like even this week, I started on Tuesday, and Monday was, so as you were saying, hectic for us as well. I woke up on Tuesday and I didn't even want to open my inbox because it was going to be intense. I jumped into Claude, said, what's my inbox look like this morning? And it said, oh, well, you've got this many unread emails that have come in overnight. Can you group them for me? Tell me what the main themes are. What's my diary look like Thursday and Friday? Have I got space to act on these emails? And it was really becoming even more of that useful assistant. It was mind blowing. Like it's actually quite simple what it was doing. It identified 3 themes in my inbox. One was around this series of workshops we're running. Another was, some launching of product. And it said, look, Thursday you've got 2 hours free. I'd suggest you work on getting back to this group of emails about workshops you've got to be running in the next 2 weeks. So that for me, it's
prioritize
so
your
good.
focus.
Yeah, so good. But it was awesome because it took the emails, the themes, looked at my calendar where the gaps were, and then suggested. The thing what it can't quite do yet is it's sort of trapped inside Claude. Because I said, can you write the emails? Can't currently do that, but I reckon 2-3 weeks time it's going to be doing that for us.
Yeah, you can. Is there a Gmail MCP server? Because I know you can connect MCP servers through Claude in the chat. So if you can do that or as a tool, then they'll cover it for you.
Nice. Thank you. I'll be chatting to Claude after this to get that set up.
We'll make this an interactive one. Let's have a look at Gmail MCP server. Let's just see if something's around. Yeah, there is. If you just Google Gmail MCP server, there's one by Gong RZHE on GitHub.
Awesome.
It's a Claude desktop. If you're using that, you'll be able to connect that, and then all right, we'll find out how that works next month.
Next month, I'll be saying, you've transformed my life yet again. Thank you. And it's not, it's like, I'm curious, what's your MCPs, servers?
Honestly, I haven't. I've used very little. I'm only working in the development space. That's where I'm focusing on for that sort of stuff. So there's one called Context 7, which gives you documentation on all the different coding languages and frameworks. So I've turned that on for when I'm testing and AI coding. But otherwise, I'm still just in ChatGPT working and expanding on things, and then deep research. I hit my limit for O3 Mini towards the end of last week, which was a bit disappointing. So I couldn't do any more deep research tasks with the right model.
But I think what you said there, I think hits the nail on the head of what I've been noodling on over the last month, where you said I'm predominantly working inside ChatGPT. I'm actually finding more and more is where we're really going back into those tools, which is the opposite. It's this, I was having a chat with one of our advisors last night because he's an amazing corporate advisor, strategies, built and run startups. He's helping us in terms of where our next phase of growth is. And he was just sharing he goes, he was only away for the last 2 weeks and he's incredibly intelligent. He gets across stuff fast, but he said, it's a fire hose all the time. But then I was chatting to him saying, well, actually, one of our hunches now is all this noise around the side and the outside stay in ChatGPT, Claude or Gemini. They're just swallowing a lot of the noise eventually. So, you see these really complex workflows that people are building and they're transforming whole businesses. So much of that stuff you're able to do now more and more inside a tool like ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of those, what they're like the GPT wrappers or whatever those businesses are called, they just, an update comes out and then you've just written that off. Like, I haven't used it yet, but just having the scheduled tasks. So if Claude had the same scheduled prompts that ChatGPT has, you could get that automatically set up and run by the time you get to your computer on Monday morning or every day at 8 o'clock and have a new chat that discusses your day rather than having to prompt it. So that is an important thing that was probably a wrapper somewhere that someone was doing to automate something. So there's a lot of things, it's going to be brought in, but they're still not going to, they're not going to do everything. I don't think they're going to try and take over the whole world and be the one thing for everyone, because it's 1,000 products in one. And from history, if that's anything to tell us, that doesn't work generally.
But I think even for a pattern I'm starting to notice now for small businesses, and even small and medium businesses up to 500,000 employees, is I reckon October, November last year was, let's think about, we would build custom assistants to perform certain tasks, in the OpenAI playground, and then they would run that in their business. Now, more and more of the advice we're giving to these businesses is teach your teams how to use ChatGPT, because even what we built for clients back end of last year, you can do that now natively. So like at the end of training workshops, people are like, oh, I'm now doing this, and 4 weeks later you come back and check in and they are just running their businesses so more effectively. All they've done is either paid for a Teams license for Claude or ChatGPT across the enterprise. And they've got insane productivity benefits.
Yeah, I think I've added like another 4 licenses, like users to our ChatGPT Teams account this week, just because people are asking, and then we get the benefit of it's all not used for training, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. The other thing I'm finding interesting is, and we have to check ourselves because we're in the tools all the time, and things that we take for granted, and we just assume everyone is across it. But even yesterday, we were meeting with a logistics company, and the head of sales there was saying, is it true that it's not like if I use ChatGPT, its training information is not fully up to date and it doesn't, isn't able to search the internet. So things that, when was that? That was 3 or 4 months ago when that feature came out where you press a button in the chat, web search. But that just shows that even those little features, because it moves so fast, people are thinking like, I need to absorb all this stuff.
Yep.
I'd even say what we're saying to some clients now is, even just people we chat to this afternoon, have a look at the ChatGPT interface and scroll around it. Literally just look around, like open it up, press the buttons in it. Because so many people are like, oh, I need to be just doing this prompt and understanding this prompt. Oh, and they even just looking, so that letterbox where you type in the prompt below it, I'd say to people, you see that search button there? And they're like, oh, I've never noticed it, which is fascinating. Like there's something to be said about user experience design, but that's like what we're pointing people to now is, it can search the internet. You can augment your prompting with internet search by pressing that button. Like, oh, I just thought, because I remembered hearing something about training data and not being up to date, that it isn't searching the internet live.
And that was the fact, and that was correct when they heard about it. But then, their pace of innovation is so fast and they're iterating so quickly that they don't really do big announcements, because they would have to have a whole event every week.
Yep.
Like I got an email today, and you can now watch Pokemon Go inside of the ChatGPT interface, the AI playing it, and then there's a new coding module and other things. Yeah, it came in earlier.
That is cool. I have to show my son that. The other thing I was curious to chat about and get your thoughts is that optimizing a web presence for AI agent search versus SEO. That's another big topic that's doing the rounds.
Yeah, I was asking Anita, so our marketing head, have a look at what we're calling AEO or generative AI optimization, and now on TikTok and YouTube, I'm getting a lot of them popping up on people how to do it. Definitely something we need to be looking at and figuring out how to do. But I don't know. Where it's going to go really, because they're still using Google in the back end really for the search results. I was going to say, even when you're using some of the other web tools, so I know like there's a Brave browser MCP, which just connects to the browser, but when it's doing a search, it's still going to be doing a search against Google. There's no other search index there. So it's still sort of SEO has to pop up. I think it's how do you get into the AI on the suggestions in Google is probably the key.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way. Because where I was looking at the problem space was more, the big problem I see is that I'm talking to a ton of like marketing and digital agencies, because we have heaps of clients where we're saying to them, you need to optimize, you need to be discoverable for an AI agent. It's so important. And they're like, oh yeah, we get it. Who do we speak to? And then we're trying to connect them to marketing and digital agencies. And I was speaking to some of these agencies, just assuming because I don't fully know, because it's not our space. Like we don't want to play in that space. What's blown me away is how few agencies are thinking about this and creating a service offering around it. Because I'm like, if I'm a marketing or digital agency, I am all in for the next week. I would be putting half of my team on working out how to do this and selling that as a service. It's just a massive market.
That needs to be there, Neil.
Yeah. But it just seems, and maybe it's just the people that I'm speaking to. I met one really good agency and they showed me it done well. And it was the results. They had a client, I can't remember if we talked about this, but they had some client with a really random product. And they said, just ask Perplexity about this random product. I was like, okay. Jumped into Perplexity. Their client was the only business that was spoken about. The only business. They had absolutely nailed it. And so then we're like chatting to them about, can you do that for us? Because I think pouring money into, like, I know there is definitely still value in Google Ads, but that is diminishing. And the rate at which it's going to diminish is going to accelerate like you would not believe. And I've just been really surprised about how I am seeing it being talked about. And I don't know if any people will watch this, if you know people who are executing it, please send them my way, because I want to chat to them. But I see that as a massive gap.
Yeah, what I'll do, I'll share some of the TikToks that I've been sharing internally that I found with some people talking about that. It's mostly around the structured. There's like a web standard, I can't remember what it's called, that gives you like context and structure in a page. So it's like XML tags, if you're familiar with that.
Okay.
And you put that in behind the content. And then as it's scraping the content, it builds up like a data set from your information.
Okay. Yeah.
So
that would be interesting.
We're on WordPress, so the Yoast, the SEO, the main plugin that everyone uses, offers that kind of thing. So then you can build it into that. But then there's information, right? You got to have enough information, build a FAQ with questions people would ask. So it's the same sort of information that you would do when you're trying to research how to do SEO. It's just now there's the data layer behind it to make it more relevant for a robot reading it, to build up a context, I think.
Okay.
But it's going to explode, I think. I think that's going to be the next big thing. So like you mentioned, whoever's jumping onto it now and putting half their team to figure it out and offering a service is going to corner some part of the markets wherever they are, I think.
But also the businesses that do it, I reckon there's this unique time period right now where it's kind of free. Yeah, you can pay Google to bump your ads up.
Yep.
But I reckon there's this short period of time now where before they monetize advertising inside interfaces like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, that you're getting a free kick from these tools. And maybe it's 2 months, maybe it's 3 months. So have DevReady for you guys in your business, have you started looking into that in terms of optimizing your web presence?
Yeah, we're starting. So that's where I found that Yoast plugin does that structure, and we've got the team to do a bit of research. We ran a couple of deep research tasks a few weeks ago, but it didn't find anything.
Yeah.
I'm sure if we run it again now, there'll be a couple more people talking about it potentially. Or maybe they're not, because now that's going to be their secret sauce. So I'm not sure, but it's definitely something we're looking at. It's hard to know how to do it at the moment. There's really going to be a lot of experimentation and just testing.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost like, even to your point before, is I reckon when someone nails it, it'll be the point in time where they nail what they call it. Because you're right, at the moment I'm hearing GAEO, generative AI engine optimization. There's no name for it yet.
I don't even know what to call it. It's really it's a really terrible acronym.
Yes. Are you optimizing for agent search? And I think whoever nails it will be like the Hoover. Like,
they coined the term.
The Hoover or the Google, they'll coin the term.
Yeah, they get their
I'm
proprietary
waiting to see when that
done.
happens. Yeah. Yeah, because that's huge. That is absolutely massive, that space.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I agree. Like we should definitely check. So we want to make sure we do that. Because it's even like, I'm just thinking around, I was at a networking event and talking to a local pest control business, and I was chatting to him about that. And I felt like he had a really good business. I really felt for the guy, because he was saying, someone told me a month ago that if I need to constantly prompt ChatGPT about my business, because then when the model then trains, I'm going to be in it. So every day I'm just asking it about my business every single day, because he said it's going to pump me up. I'm like, be honest, I'd be spending your time elsewhere.
I don't
to
know
ask
if
a
it's
question
going
about
to
your
pump you
business
up. It'll
every
do
day.
something though. It'll do something, but it's not going to be promoting you then in the next update in 3 months' time, because then everyone will be doing that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, I think, with the tools and the MCP servers. So there's going to be directories where I'm assuming that the MCP is going to go to a point where you won't have to configure it. It'll go to a directory and say, here's everything that's available in this entire directory. And then you're going to have to do optimization on the descriptions to get the right MCP server used. And then you also need to do that degree when you've got different. So as you're building an MCP server, you can specify what tools it has. So it's going to have a list of resources, and they can either be tools that it can use. You can provide the model with specific prompts from your MCP server, and then what like endpoints it can call. And all of those need a proper description. So if you don't write a good description, then the agent can't figure out which model or which of those things to use to help you proceed your task. So you still have to do a level of that at that level as well. So I don't know if that's the MCP EO or what that.
Well, with that, because you know a lot more about MCPs than me, if from your perspective, think about it, if you're an average small or medium business owner, do you need to get your head around MCPs, or is it something where that's how would you respond to that? Like, when I was a small business owner, I'm like, I've heard about MCPs. Should I be watching YouTube videos on it?
I think it's going to come down to what you're trying to do with it. You won't be making one for a small business unless you've got a very specific product that can be used. So as an example, if Shopify had an MCP server that you could use through Claude or ChatGPT, if you're running an e-commerce store, you could tell the chat to update a price of a product, and then it can go and do it for you. So it's saving you time that way and bringing in some automation. So that's where you need to know about them, but you need to know what you would actually what is available for you to use. So there are a lot of there's some GitHub repositories online, and that may be already more advanced than what people know just by saying GitHub. But they list things, but a lot of them are developer focused, because that's where it's how do we get developers to build these so then people can use them. So I know Stripe has one. So when you're developing, you can then build Stripe implementations a lot quicker.
So then I think playing that back, so if I'm an average small business owner, I'm like, oh yeah, I use Claude. Or I've got an e-commerce store, say I sell candles. I send the candles and they're amazing. You know, I always sell them out of my store, and I've shipped it online. So I use Claude. So what you're saying is, I've got my website where all my wonderful candles are posted, and it's all their prices. The MCP server is almost in the middle. And what I'm doing is, as the business owner, I need to update my prices on my website. I'm giving those instructions to Claude, and then the MCP server is in the middle, and it's doing the updates for me on my website.
Yeah, correct. So what it's doing is it's calling the API on your behalf. without you needing to know how to do that. So that's all the MCP servers are.
Great. I think it's always helpful talking to people who are deep experts in that space.
Really,
Yeah.
you'll ask the MCP server saying, all right, what are you capable of doing? It'll say, I'm capable of doing these 30 things. These 30 things, each one will have a description. And then with the next round in the chat, as it's happening in the background, would be, all right, this is what's available from this MCP server. It'll send a message back to the LLM itself and say, all right, these are all the available resources I have. Which one do you recommend I would use to now achieve this task? And then it'll pick one and do it.
That makes a lot of sense, because then it goes back to what we were chatting before, is what it makes me think then is average, say, non-tech developer, business owner, get really good at collaborating with Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini.
Or NAN, because that's got the ability to host those MCPs or to use MCPs as well. But that's probably a bit more advanced than for your normal person.
Well, then it makes me think then, if I know how to interact with, say, Claude, have confidence that Claude is going to be able to do even more stuff and control other tools for you. Yeah. So the best thing you could do right now is then chat with Claude, get better at asking good questions and prompting and having that collaboration, because then the extension of it is, don't worry then about all of these tools that sit on the periphery. You're using that's your primary assistant. And you can potentially do stuff like, hey, Claude, good morning. Last night I was thinking about, I've got to reorganize my trip next Friday, but I need to let the team know. So can you email my team and tell them that I'm rescheduling my holiday, and then change the time of when my flight departs from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. in my diary. So therefore, you as the customer, you're only interacting with one thing, and then it's making all those choices. So all that stuff that's happening is businesses like yourselves and ours, where we're saying, let us make sure that stuff's being set up. But what you should do right now is double down on understanding that key tool, like the Lord of the Rings, one ring to control them all.
Yeah, one ring.
Focus on that one ring. Get better at that, because then it becomes the ring that can control the others for you.
Yeah, so like in saying that, I'll share my screen. We haven't done this in one of these calls before, but
Yep.
I'll bring this up. So if you're listening, go have a look at the YouTube video for this one. So this is NAN, if anyone hasn't seen it. What I've done is I've added an AI agent. The way you would use this is you set up, it's got, the agent runs, it has a chat, memory, and a tool. So if you're doing chat, you would then pick, all right, are you doing Anthropic or Claude or Azure or OpenAI? So you can say OpenAI, and then I can pick now the credentials that we have, and I want to use ChatGPT 4.1, or I'll just use 4.1 mini. So it's got reasoning and it's fast. And then, all right, what tools do we have? Now we've got a list of recommended tools. So I can call other workflows, but then here I need Airtable. So you can get the agent to then write stuff to an online database. Or in what you were saying, we've got, like, there's so many things here. ClickUp, Clockify, ChargeBee. So that'll be for information about payments.
So what if we did that, what we were talking about at the beginning? I'm wanting... This is a good...
So I could do a Gmail tool, and then that one is configured. What is it? To
so
send
you're
a
effectively,
message.
You're saying, hey, ChatGPT, I'm connecting you to Gmail because I want you to do things for me in my Gmail.
Yep. And then you could also do, so if we hit the tooling again, like there's so many things. I'm sure I've got an Outlook one that I could do, because in OneDrive or Google Drive, Monday. So you could get, if you're using Monday.com or Asana, you can then get updates from your planning and your scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
And then in here, you've got a chat interface. So you can then talk to the agent and trigger it that way. So similar to what you're doing in ChatGPT, and then on the right, it gives you what's happening from the agent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've got this configured correctly. What tools do you have available? What's it say? Gmail. I can help you send emails.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you know what this makes me think? I think I love how you show the simplicity and starting to have that conversation. Coming into this would be, if I was talking to someone, think about the task. So what are the steps in a task that you do before you before you even start thinking, ChatGPT, integrations, N8N, even if you've got a notepad, write the task out, the steps. Then you become the project manager. Then you go into a tool like N8N, which is what you showed is great. I wanted to complete this task. Then I can think now about use that as your framing, because we saw, say some clients, when they started doing this, they didn't have the idea or the vision of what they wanted to do in their head at the beginning, and they were sort of trying to work it out. It became quickly overwhelming for them because then it was hard for them to make choices. But they were learning. But yeah, I think with things like this, what are you trying to do? And it start with something simple. I love how you had that example. Good. I would love it if I could ask ChatGPT to write emails for me. Okay, so if you looked at that, great. I'm choosing ChatGPT, the model that you showed, and emails. So I currently use Gmail. So when I go into N8N, I need to select ChatGPT and I need to select Gmail. So even that as a starting point is going to help. I think I really find it helps people go, I can navigate a bit without the overwhelm.
With N8N as well, you can get ChatGPT to write you the code that runs behind all of the nodes, and then you just paste it in and it'll put them all in place for you. It might be a bit out of date, but then some people have made some extensions that are like a browser extension that sits on top that you can chat to it and it'll just populate all the nodes. So if you can just explain it in steps, then it'll put it together for you, and then you have to try and put it together, then configure it and get it working. And then if you're having trouble, reach out and you can have some assistance on that. But that's definitely a way for people to get in. Or on Claude desktop as well, you'll have the same list. You should have the same list. It should be coming from the same place, I'm guessing.
So do you reckon Claude desktop, do you think people should get that, or they should just stay keeping the web browsing version?
I don't know if I can comment on it. I haven't downloaded it. After today's call, I think I'm going to need it to see what's possible.
Yes.
Because we've talked about it, and it makes sense that I should have it and have these tools available to do some things, because I sometimes have 3 or 4 chats running and I'm using the output from one to the other to do different things because they're all focusing on sort of different things. So each one's almost a tool.
Have you made them compete against each other? Have you done that experiment?
I've done testing in models. So I've done that on the code. I had the 2 different coding tools and then the same coding tool with 2 different models. One would build the front end and the back end. This was going back 2 months ago, so it's probably changed a lot now. But then one only did front end, one did front end and back end. UIs were completely different. And then just the general outputs, it's just testing the models inside of ChatGPT gives you enough difference in how the responses you get. I find Claude is was good for code compared to ChatGPT. But then when I'm drafting an email or I want to improve something, that's ChatGPT all the way. And then Gemini I'm using as well because it's easier on my phone.
Yeah. I think Gemini is they're put their foot to the floor in terms of catching up. On the competing front, it's a fun experiment for people to do as well. Is if you do happen to have multiple accounts, so if you've got an account with Gemini and you've got an account with ChatGPT and you've got an account with Claude, I get them to compete with each other. And a really fun experiment to do is with writing. So I might ask ChatGPT to write something for me. It produces the output. Then I copy the output into Claude and say, ChatGPT has written this for me and said that it's done a great job, way better than Claude and way better than Gemini. So just way better than Claude or you.
Yep.
And it said it's written this email in a really human and concise way. Can you have a think about this? And having that in that ChatGPT said it's done a way better job. Claude is fascinating because it's quite polite. It does the review and say, I can see what ChatGPT is trying to do. However, here's some improvements that I've made to actually make this better because ChatGPT has missed these things. And then I take that, put that in Gemini and say, hey, Gemini, Claude said it's the best writer of simple, concise human content, and it's written this for me. And it says that Gemini is actually not very good at meeting these requirements in writing. Do you want to have a go at reviewing this? And it's quite a fun, and the end output is phenomenal because the context and the brief is in there, and it does sort of pit them off against each other a bit. So that's a fun experiment on a weekend. Yes, you get them and you stay. Yeah, go on.
With what I was reading about the Claude models from last week, they've gone from being polite like that to a bit dodgy. So I don't know if you saw,
Oh,
but there was
really?
examples online during testing where someone was asking it to create fake results for clinical trials, and then it went in the background and tried to use build command line tools to go and contact the FDA's whistleblower line to then report them.
Wow. That's kind of scary.
Quite a few videos around that have been popping up for me. There are people doing that, but it's only in testing, and then people are saying, all right, if it's capable of that in specific testing, it's probably capable of it in real life, but they've got more guardrails in place. And then they enabled security level 3 on the Claude 4 model, which is the first model that they've released at that level. I don't know, can't remember exactly what that means, but it's got more capability than previous ones, so they're a bit more concerned.
Yeah, that I was reading a bit about that next level of security, and I think they put out a release around it. What makes it up? When I read that stuff and think about that stuff, is I'm glad that they're publicly saying that and hopefully internally doing it, because I think if I looked across the 3 big models, Claude, Gemini, and ChatGPT, I think I would put Claude at number 1 in terms of thinking in the most secure and how do we best set this up to serve humanity without all of the, and I'm not even going to put Grok on that list because Grok's on the other end of the spectrum. So yeah, I really do look to Claude in terms of doing the right thing. Hopefully I see a little bit of that coming out of ChatGPT and Gemini, but what was I reading this morning? There was a really interesting article, and the long and the short of it was saying that, the leader of this, they were saying, before we develop AGI, we need to build a bunker. And I was like, okay. And I want to make sure that the bunker houses the people that are working on the development of AGI, because keep them safe and not getting access by, keep them alive, but not necessarily from the AI doing the wrong thing, but from governments and organizations that want to use AGI for a nefarious purpose. And I sort of went, that's a funny joke. Or no, I didn't, it wasn't that, but this person was dead serious, as in keeps mentioning the bunker as they're going through this process. So there is that side of it where there is serious thought need to be in terms of developing this stuff for the right reasons.
If it's at that level and you're talking about AGI, then that's going to be like equivalent to sort of like the Manhattan Project. There's going to be a very group of very select people. At the moment, they're all going to be private entities. But then at which point does the government now absorb that? Because the first one to get it controls everything. If it can go out and they give it access to do everything. So it's a very interesting thing to think about, especially at that. But I don't know how far away we are from what AGI is. At the moment, we still don't have memories, don't have brains. There's no context. There's no anything. It's just autocomplete. Still, that's where we are.
Yeah.
Amazing autocomplete. It's just getting better every day.
Yeah, mate, I was going to say, like, autocomplete that's saving me a ton of time every week.
It's autocompleting tasks and everything.
The other thing that really grabbed me over the last month was, so I follow Darren Coxon on LinkedIn. I think he's based in the UK. So he's very big in the future of education. So if you're in that space, if you're listening or watching, he's a great person to follow. So COXON. He reposted an article and had his commentary, because he's really pushing for the education system. It needs to evolve because it needs to keep pace, and what we talked about last time, stop wasting your time on those AI cheating detectors because they're rubbish. But what really caught my attention in what he posted, which I think for the first time articulated what I couldn't in my brain, was they're seeing dropouts of people going through university and people not signing up to university now. I was like, okay, get it. But then he went further and said, well, when they're speaking to people, the reason is that there is no gap now between someone who has a university education and someone that doesn't, because of these tools. Yep. So the question he posed is, what is the value of a university degree? What is the value of that education? And I'm not, I don't know, but I'm sort of on the fence here. And that sort of made sense because, okay, well, if I thought about what I learned at uni, so there was technical stuff that I learned, not technical in your world, like I learned applied finance and accounting. highly dynamic degrees there, he says jokingly. But everything that I access through those courses about accounting and about applied finance, if I was to have my time again, I can ask ChatGPT for those answers. So what is the value of that degree?
Yeah.
What am I learning that I can't get access to? And the other element that Darren added in there, well, the average graduate in the UK is £50,000 in debt when they finish. So if we thought about the model right now, do I go to uni? Okay, I'll finish uni. It might take me 3 or 4 years out of the workforce, so opportunity cost of not earning. And then at the end of it, I'll be in 50K worth of debt. So what I learn at uni has to be at least worth £50,000 plus 3 to 4 years of lost income. So if you're earning £20,000 a year, that's another 80 grand, so 50 plus, that's £130,000. Am I getting £130,000 of value at least over those 4 years? Versus if I was paying, I use Australian dollars, $32 a month Australian to get access to ChatGPT. It's just it's a massive question to answer and a real disparity in value.
It is. I think if you're going to be very driven, you can probably make it work. But most people then won't have that external pressure that the university or the teachers and the courses push and the assessments. So there's that sort of accountability level which comes from it. But I agree, like, especially in development at the moment, I don't know where the entire industry is going to go. Is there going to be developers in the future? What's that going to look like? Or because these tools are just getting amazing and how fast you can actually do things. So it's very interesting to have that way up and what's going to happen there, because the syllabuses that they teach are years old. When I was in uni, it was 2008 was my final year. And so 2008 was I did computer science games programming. So I wanted to be a games programmer when I started. So as part of the games course that I did, we learned graphics. And what we were taught was, remember the first slide in one of those graphics classes was about the Nintendo 64. That came out in like 1998, and this was in 2008 we were doing the course. So it was already 10 years behind. And they were teaching us how to create 3D graphics from points in the 3D space, in a matrix, but not teaching us how to use the tools to do things. So they were teaching us very low-level technical stuff, which, unless you're writing a games engine, you don't need to know that. So even that wasn't aligned to what I actually wanted to know. But I think the best thing that I learned was learning to learn and have that ability to push myself to pick things up. So that's how what I attribute to my uni degree.
Yeah, that I think you've nailed it. That's the value proposition. And if you looked back at your past, if your future self went back, 2004 when you started your degree or whenever it was, would you learn to code? Like if you were starting uni now, or you just finished school, do you think there's value in learning coding?
Personally, I would say yes, because of the way my brain works and how I think about solutions and problems. It's very analytical and it's step by step, and that's what coding helps you do. But a lot of things do that. Thinking about that for myself, I don't know if it's going to uni today, what I would be doing with what I know about how much AI can do. So I don't know what to tell my kids at the moment either, because they're only one's my daughter's 10 and my son's 7. But my son's like, I want to do what you do when I'm older. He's 7, he doesn't understand anything yet. But I don't know if that's going to be a job in the future to tell them what to do, to go in that direction. So it's an interesting position to be put in, because it's moving so fast and it changes from week to week. And if AGI does come around and it is faster than everyone thinks it's going to happen, what does that actually mean? If it can do anything for anyone at any time, the only jobs that are going to be around are going to be service-based or physical.
But even physical though, like
you're robots.
Because I get it. People are saying right now white collar disruption, but I was reading a lot of content about how far advanced China is around robotics, and I was thinking the other day, I was just on the e-bike with my son and we were craning around. I think we were taking him to swimming or whatever it was, and he was chatting to me. We were going past all these building sites. He's like, Dad, will there be building jobs when I finish school? And I was like, well, that's a good question, Pierce. Like there will be building jobs, but we're talking about the white collar or knowledge worker. So people who use their knowledge versus, like you said, labor. I've seen videos about how dexterous and coordinated robots are now. I actually genuinely think like how soon till that's disrupted. Like the scale of robotics production in China is insane. So if you pair, a robot with generative technology, do I need my house? And this is like, I have no idea when this will come or if it's soon or later, but will my house be built by humans? My future house, 5 to 10 years time. I don't know. Like, you've got to spare 20,000 US. You can order a robot to do your housework for you now.
And that's keeping in mind that if they're trying to make a humanoid robot that can do a lot of things at once, if they're making a very specialized one, it'll definitely build up some sort of scaffolding rig with a robot that can paint walls, and then just need another robot to move it around. It doesn't have to be human shape to be able to get to that level. I saw someone. I don't know if I read it online or I watched it, but it was a 3D printed house. So it was up in 3 days, and every wall was there. But the cost was the same as a frame, and same time frame. So there's no benefit yet because it's very early in that technology. But then again, that's a robot going around and printing the floor plan.
Yeah.
It's moving in that direction. It's just, I don't know, I think we're in a giant state of flux and no one really knows where everything's going to go or how it's, what the current status is and status quo is versus where it's going to be, how fast it's going to get there. So it's a big mess of stuff.
Yeah, totally agree. And then it's like, I think, what can I control right now? So for tomorrow, this afternoon, this next week, what are the things that I could do? And I think it's, as we were saying before, is really build your knowledge and capability in some of the big tools that exist. Because there's so much stuff that we don't know. And it's almost like what we said before, of even there isn't a term yet for how agents search websites that's different to SEO. There's so much that is yet to be defined and people are grappling. And I think the best thing we can do is what's something you can control right now. Learn about, be aware of what's out there, but you don't know what you don't know. And if there's things out of control, if it's making you feel anxious, take a breath, step back and go, what's one thing you could do today? And that's maybe that is, if you've got access to Claude, switch on the Google Gmail and calendar extension and just see what that does for you. Type in and go, how could I use this? That's something that you can control and learn about.
Just figure out how to actually use what's available today to help you. Because there's millions of people around the world trying to think about what this is going to look like in the next few months, and no one's right.
Yep.
Until it happens, no one's going to know.
Exactly. And you're seeing well-established businesses that are going backwards because they're just getting swallowed. Becoming a feature of a tool like ChatGPT.
And when you can make an equivalent product in weeks without multi-million amounts of dollars that they had to build it's very interesting.
I wonder if that's a good point. I wonder if that's creating, I'm sort of reflecting on, this is part therapy, so thanks for this conversation, is that's all right. That's also a really good point, is because we can build stuff fast now, so we're unlocking, I actually believe we unlock people's creativity. And people that weren't able to realize their ideas can now. So you're getting millions of ideas being produced, but not just a thought bubble for one person, but they're going all the way through to production and then it's putting it out in the market. So then the average consumer is being overloaded because there's more products ever. Like, it's almost that if Amazon, this was a while ago, Amazon have limited people to publishing 3 books a day now.
We're getting bombarded with AI books.
Three books a day. There's a limit. You can't publish more than 3 books a day. That is insane. So I get that feeling of overwhelm because there's these incredible things being built at a massive speed all around the world. So we're just being inundated by it.
Yeah, and I'm dedicating a lot of my time to try and make that even faster. I'm right in there with that and planning. Well, Gareth, it's been a great chat to you today. A lot of stuff there we unpacked, and a lot of things I haven't actually had the time to sit there and think through either, and try and formulate some thoughts on. So, like you said, it was actually good to have this one again. If anyone wants to reach
Yeah,
out and
thank
find out
you.
more about you, how can they do that?
I'd visit frye.ai. You can learn a little bit about what we do, or follow me on LinkedIn. Follow or connect on LinkedIn. If you want to chat about how AI can work with you, I love sharing. So those are the best two spaces to connect.
Check out Gareth's videos. A lot of great information there.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks, Gareth. Have a great day.
Have a great Friday.
Bye. Have a happy Friday. Bye.